Today, I will tell you about the major changes to the TOEFL exam 2026. The exam is being almost completely updated. New types of tasks will appear in all sections. The scoring system will change. Essentially, it will be an almost entirely new test. What does this all mean for you? Has the TOEFL become easier or harder? What does the exam structure look like now and how should you prepare for it? And will your university accept the new scores? Let's break it down step by step. Let's start with the most important part, the scoring. Previously, the overall TOEFL score was calculated as the sum of the sections and maxed out at 120, 4 sections for 30 points each. Now, a new scale from 1 to 6 points is being introduced. 1 is the lowest result, 6 is the highest. How does the new scale correlate with the old one? On the screen, you can see a table with the new 6-point scale and its approximate equivalence to the old 120-point system. Briefly speaking, 6 on the new system is roughly equivalent to 120, a perfect score on the old scale. 5 points is now roughly equivalent to 100 points. That is close to 25 points in each section. 4 points is around 80 points in the old system. It is exactly 4 that can now be considered that magic threshold. In many cases, universities require a minimum of around 80 on the old system, which means on the new scale you should ideally aim for the no less than 4 points. Of course, exact requirements depend on the institution, and although most universities will likely accept the new TOEFL scores, it is better to clarify the requirements with the admissions committee for your educational institution in advance. It is important to know that during the transition period, the creators of TOEFL will report scores in both formats, the new 6-point system and the familiar 120 points, to make it easier for everyone to adapt and compare scores. So you and your score recipients, universities or employers, will see both scores on the report for some time. But later on, the new scale will make understanding and scores easier and closer to international standards. It is aligned with the CFR levels. The overall structure of the TOEFL remains the same. The exam still consists of 4 sections: reading, listening, writing, and speaking. However, 2 major innovations have been introduced. First, the total testing time has been reduced to approximately 90 minutes, and the entire exam is now taken without a single break. Second, the reading and listening sections have become multi-stage adaptive, meaning the difficulty of subsequent tasks changes in real time depending on your initial answers. In addition, the task formats within each section have also changed significantly. Tasks have become shorter and more diverse, though they can be tricky in some places. Let's go through each section and see what new things have appeared and what has become easier or conversely harder. Let's start with the reading section. Several new task types have been introduced here, and reading now looks completely different compared to the old TOEFL. What kind of tasks await you? Complete the words. The first new task in the section. You get a short text where you need to fill in missing parts of words. For example, type in missing letters in some words. Previously, TOEFL reading only had long academic texts, but now we start with such a small snippet with gaps. You can already feel the difference. Read in daily life. Another new format. This is a short everyday text such as correspondence, an announcement, or a letter. After reading, you need to answer 2 or 3 questions about it. Academic passage. Finally, the last text in the reading section is an academic excerpt. This is the element most similar to the old format, an excerpt on an academic topic, but now it is much shorter, about 300-400 words instead of the previous more than 700 words. So the volume of the academic text has been reduced by about half, which, you must agree, makes life easier. These are the new tasks that await you in reading. Overall, there are more texts, but each individual one is shorter than before. Also, remember that the section is now adaptive. If you make mistake in the early parts, the system may give you easier questions later, which will lead to a lower maximum score. So it is important to give 100% from the very first task. Which is easier, the old or the new format? In my opinion, the new reading has become slightly easier because you have to read less and the new texts are not as overloaded with details and complex vocabulary. In the old version, you had to wade through lengthy academic articles. Now, the materials are more compact and it will be easier for you to hold your attention. However, you shouldn't relax. The new tasks can be tricky. For example, the complete the word exercise can really leave you stumped. Even experienced experts sometimes find it difficult to quickly figure out which word should go in the blank. So practice carefully so as not to get confused by such minor details on the exam. How to prepare for reading? Simply read more various texts in English, both academic articles and everyday materials, letters or announcements, for example, to get used to different styles and text volumes. The more diverse you practice, the better. After reading, we move on to listening. Listening has also undergone major changes. Tasks have become shorter in duration and new interactive formats have appeared. Let's look step by step at the new task types in the listening section. Listen and choose. This is the first new type in listening. They play a short statement or line for you, and then you need to choose the most appropriate response from the given options. Simply put, you listen to a phrase, like a line in a dialogue, and have to understand how you would react or what fits as an answer. This format tests your understanding of everyday dialects. The task is quite short. There will be about 10 or 15 such mini questions in a row on the exam. Conversation. You listen to a short dialogue between people, about 4 or 6 lines, in an everyday or work situation, and answer 2 questions about its content. Announcements. You are given a short public announcement to listen to, for example, about a university club or event. It lasts about a minute, followed by 2 comprehension questions. Both of these task types simulate real-life situations in a highly compressed format. Academic listening passage or lecture. And finally, listening includes an academic audio fragment. Essentially, this is a mini lecture similar to what was in the old version of TOEFL. The difference is that now the academic lecture is shorter, about 2 minutes or slightly more, instead of the previous lengthy recordings. After listening, you will have to answer a series of questions testing your comprehension of the main ideas and details of the lecture. The reduction in audio length makes the new version of listening more forgiving. Previously, lengthy conversations or lectures of 4 or 5 minutes could be exhausting and attention would scatter. Many students complained that it was hard to stay focused until the end of the recording. Now all audio is significantly shorter, so it is easier to process information and the likelihood of turning out decreases. In this sense, the new listening has become easier. However, remember that although the recordings are shorter, the questions can be tricky. You still need to listen carefully to every word. Sometimes in a short dialogue, there can be catches or details upon which questions are built. To prepare for listening, you should also use additional resources. Practice your listening skills daily. Listen to podcasts, news, short videos in English. Try retelling their content and answering questions about them. This way, you will get used to quickly extracting the main points even from short audio. Now let's move on to the writing section. Here are the changes are more noticeable. Instead of 2 large essays like before, you will perform several shorter tasks of different types. The writing section has become more diverse, but the overall amount of writing has decreased. Let's break down the new tasks in writing. Build a sentence. The first task of the writing section. You are given a set of words that you need to put in the correct order to form a coherent, meaningful sentence. Essentially, this is a test of your knowledge in English syntax and sentence structures. At first glance, it is a very simple format, just rearranging words, but don't rush to rejoice. In practice, building sentences turns out to be harder than it seems, especially if the phrase is long or words could form multiple options. There will be about 10 such sentences in the test, and this is specifically the first part of the writing section. Be careful, this task can be tricky, and it's easy to make a mistake by messing up the word order. I recommend practicing similar exercises in advance to get the hang on it. Write an email, the second writing task. Write a short email based on a given situation. For example, you might be given a situation from academic or work life. Writing an email to a professor, a friend, or in office. You have about 7 minutes to complete it, and the expected length is approximately 100 to 150 words. So it's a small text, essentially a couple of paragraphs. You need to demonstrate the ability to clearly express your thoughts in an email format. A polite tone, literacy, and the appropriateness of the style for the given situation will likely be evaluated. Recall in advance how emails are written in English: salutation, opening, main body, closing phrase, and signature. Academic discussion. The third task is participating in an online academic discussion. If you prepared for the earlier version of TOEFL, you will recognize this exercise. It carried over from the old format unchanged and is the only survivor task from there. You are presented with a situation. On the course forum, the professor has asked a question. 2 students have already left detailed responses to this question, and you need to write your answer in the discussion. You must write a minimum of 100 words, and the time is limited to 10 minutes. Here they test your ability to analyze a problem, express your opinion, and comment on other people's ideas in writing. Essentially, it's like writing a short argumentative essay based on the context of discussion. In the old TOEFL writing format, as you remember, you had to write 2 essays, integrated, based on reading and the audio, and independent. Now there are no more long essays. Instead, there are these 2 small tasks: email and discussion response, plus the technical exercise on sentence building. Has it become easier? On one hand, yes. You have to write less. The volume of text has decreased, essentially 2 mini essays instead of 2 full ones. The topics have become more practical and understandable. An email is a familiar format to everyone. However, writing is still capable of leaving you stumped. The new small tasks check very specific skills. Build a sentence requires attention to detail and grammar knowledge, and it's easy to underestimate it and lose points. Although the email and discussion are shorter than regular essays, they still require the ability to logically express thoughts and observe formats and time limits. Plus, you now have 3 different tasks in this section, and you also need to know how to switch between them. Overall, the new version of writing has become shorter but remains challenging, so you need to prepare just as diligently. How to prepare for writing? Practice doing each type of task separately. Learn to quickly arrange words in the right order. You can train with special grammar sequencing exercises. Try writing a few times emails on different topics, 7 minutes to 120 words, to develop the skill of meeting the specific limit without losing grammar and content quality. And of course, the good old essay training will also come in handy, since the academic discussion is essentially a mini essay requiring coherent argumentation. A great idea is to use AI assistants. For example, ChatGPT can help check your text. You can ask it for advice on how to improve your vocabulary or grammar, or even give it a sample answer and ask what can be improved. Get feedback on the structure of your writing and style. This is quite an effective way to run your written answers through a check. Moving on, after the written part, there is the last section, speaking. Finally, speaking. A section many are afraid of, but which in the updated TOEFL may have become slightly easier and closer to real life. Let's see what has changed in speaking. Previously, TOEFL speaking had both independent questions and integrated ones, where you had to read or listen and then speak. Now there are no integrated formats anymore. This is a crucial point. Instead, they added 2 new types of tasks, focused on your spontaneous speech and pronunciation. Listen and repeat the first new speaking exercise. They play a short statement for you like a greeting phrase or an announcement. Hi everyone and welcome to our main office. Your task is to repeat what you heard out loud as accurately as possible. There will be 7 such phrases, and with each iteration, the phrases get longer. So it starts with a short sentence, and then the phrases become more complex, longer, and possibly slightly more challenging grammatically. Examiners, and possibly an automated system, will test your pronunciation, accent, and your ability to remember and clearly reproduce the heard sentences. Don't be surprised, by the end of the task, the phrases can be quite long, and repeating them completely is already a challenge for your concentration and memory. I have 2 pieces of advice for you. Work on your pronunciation to repeat the sounds correctly, and train your short-term auditory memory. For example, listen to English sentences and try to repeat them verbatim. Take an interview, the second new task. Essentially, it is a simulation of an interview or oral test. The computer or examiner will ask you 4 questions in a row, and after each, you will have about 45 seconds to answer orally. The questions are general and don't require special knowledge. Topics can vary greatly: studying, hobbies, life experiences, opinions on a situation, or future plans. For example, they might ask, what learning achievement was the hardest for you and why? Or, describe a place where you like to spend time. You give a detailed answer, as much as you can fit into 45 seconds, and then immediately get to the next question, and so on 4 times in a row. In total, you speak for about 3 minutes, broken down into 4 segments. Here, they evaluate your speech fluency, coherence, vocabulary, and grammar. Basically everything like in a normal English conversation. As already mentioned, there are no more integrated tasks in speaking. You won't have to read a text or listen to a lecture and then summarize it orally. For many, this is a relief, because previously such tasks caused a lot of stress. You had to simultaneously read or listen, take notes, and then reproduce the content. That is gone now. The new tasks are focused only on your speech, either repeating what you heard or answering a question on your own. In this sense, we can say that speaking has become easier and close to real communication. You don't need auxiliary skills, only the ability to speak English on the fly. Of course, you can't call this section entirely easy. Exam anxiety hasn't gone anywhere, and speaking coherently for 45 seconds on the spot also needs to be practiced. But compared to the previous version, where you had to retell lectures, many will find the new speaking less stressful. Speaking preparation tips. Practice speaking on timer on different topics. Take a list of common topics, tell about yourself, your favorite book, environmental issues, future plans, and practice answering. Set 45 seconds for the answer, trying to speak coherently for all these seconds. You can record yourself on a voice recorder and then listen. Evaluate where you stumbled, what words you lacked. Separately practice pronunciation and repeating phrases by ear. Turn on English videos or audios, pause after a sentence, and repeat out loud, trying to copy the intonation and accent. This will help for the listening and repeat task. It is also useful to use special services. For example, you can use AI conversation partners. ChatGPT or other apps can simulate an interview, ask you questions in English, and you answer. A great way to boost your spontaneous answering skills. We have reviewed the main changes in all 4 sections in the TOEFL. What is the conclusion? Overall, the new TOEFL format looks more compact and friendly. Texts are shorter, audio is shorter, they don't demand you to write much, and speaking is on simpler topics. Most tasks have become shorter and, at first glance, easier, which is of course pleasing. But remember the traps. The format has changed, and you need to practice every new exercise to feel confident. Tasks are shorter, but they can still surprise you. Stay vigilant and prepare well for all types of questions. Then there will be no surprises on the exam, and you will be able to show your best result. I hope you now understand the new TOEFL structure and feel more confident knowing what to expect on test day. If this video was helpful to you, please like and subscribe to the channel. I will be very pleased and it is not hard for you. Ahead, I will prepare even more materials to help you successfully pass the TOEFL. We will move towards your high score together and share life hacks. Thanks for watching and see you in the next videos.